It's funny. I was speaking to a potential client the other day, and she said, we have these questions on an ongoing basis. We're currently wondering, should we rent a new space? And she said, well, we go to our lawyer for those questions. And it doesn't really fit there. It's not really within the realm of what our lawyer does. We go to our year-end accountant. It also doesn't really fit into the realm of what they do. Are you kind of that killer for us? And that's exactly what we strive to be. So we provide you with your bookkeeping, but if you want to have a conversation about making a business decision with financial implications, which, everything has a financial implication, give us a call, and we leave that door open for our clients.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I am your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be a great one. Our guest is the co-founder of Enkel, a Vancouver-based bookkeeping practice helping small to medium-sized businesses to better manage your finances. He is a former KPMG employee who decided to start his own bookkeeping practice 2 years ago, and today the firm has over 15 employees. Omar Visram, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Michael.
Yes, and I'm excited to hear your journey. That's a really sizable bookkeeping practice. But first off, before we go too far down this path, can you share with the audience a bit of your background? How did you become who you are today?
That's a good question. So my career really started at my parents' home hardware store. They owned a small home hardware store in a suburb of Vancouver, and it really was a community gathering place. And I ran the cash register. So it was like the old-fashioned kind where you had to count back change, pretty unsophisticated. But I guess that's where my passion for numbers and entrepreneurship really came from. I then had a brief stint as a busboy at a seafood and steak house, but stayed really closely connected to my family's businesses while I was in university. I just went in with the idea that I'd do a general business degree, but then I actually found that I was pretty good at accounting. So I decided to go through CPA Recruit, and I landed a job at KPMG. And really, the euphoria of working at a big firm, it was a lot to take in, but I really felt like I'd landed my dream job. And so I started climbing the corporate ladder. I was there for about 8 years and actually really enjoyed it. But then, I was kind of at that point where I was going, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? And really the answer was no. So I jumped out. I tried something completely different, worked on the launch of a local car share program called Evo Car Share, was responsible for fleet and customer experience. So about the furthest thing from accounting possible. Did that for a year. Loved it, and then meanwhile connected with a former client of mine, and just a year after leaving KPMG and being with that car share program, we launched Enkel.
Wow. That's really cool, and such an interesting journey of being, growing up in small business and then going into a very large organization and then getting pulled back into what you're doing today. What's it been like from startup of this bookkeeping firm to today?
I'd say it's been an amazing ride. I mean, the really exciting thing about bookkeeping is you can have such a huge impact on a business, and layer that on with the technology that's available to us today. And it can be quite powerful for small businesses. But like any business, it really was starting a business, starting from scratch. day one, January 4th, 2016 was basically just me in an office. March 2016, I hired my first employee, and then we've more or less added a person every month since then. But, there's been no shortage of growing pains. I mean, I worked at KPMG. I didn't really have a whole lot of bookkeeping experience. So I had to, self-train myself on a lot of the tools. But the one thing that I'm really proud of is that we've really listened to customers from the beginning. And I'm very passionate about small business and enterprise just because of my family's business history. And so very early on, I would have conversations with clients or potential clients about what was important to them. And we've really, over time, just improved our service to really have a service that is focused around the owner-managed business.
Mm. And when you started your business, did you, you're at 15 staff now, what was your vision when you started?
My vision was and still is to grow a huge bookkeeping business that provides small business owners with more than just bookkeeping, but provides business owners with a solution to all of their accounting and finance knowledge gaps, if you will. It's funny, I was speaking to a potential client the other day, and she said, we have these questions on an ongoing basis. We're currently wondering, should we rent a new space? And she said, well, we go to our lawyer for those questions. And it doesn't really fit there. It's not really within the realm of what our lawyer does. We go to our year-end accountant. It also doesn't really fit into the realm of what they do. Are you kind of that killer for us? And that's exactly what we strive to be. So we provide you with your bookkeeping, but if you want to have a conversation about making a business decision with financial implications, which, everything has a financial implication, give us a call, and we leave that door open for our clients.
That's beautiful. That's one of the things that I've seen in the past work so well, in that bringing the financial clarity to decisions is so powerful, and it's rare. It's rare out there that business owners are actually making decisions based on sound financial clarity, right? It's like kind of bowling behind a curtain. And when you provide that, you really open up opportunity for a business owner to actually be successful, that they could make decisions that are actually more accurate.
Absolutely.
Now, I've worked and talked to so many different bookkeepers and worked with so many different bookkeepers, and it's always interesting to see the world view of the different owners, right? So you are a bookkeeper, you've got an interesting background in that you didn't train to be a bookkeeper, you didn't really set out to be a bookkeeper, but yet you ended up doing that solid, strong accounting background. But yet you've been able to really quickly grow the firm, where I've spoken to bookkeepers who maybe get stuck and, they have the ability, they have the skills, they have everything, but yet their business doesn't grow as fast. Why do you think that is for you?
So while I am, kind of your average accountant, I love numbers, I can get really deep into the details. I am at the heart really an entrepreneur, and I love the idea of building something. And so this business in many ways was the perfect combination of my skill set, really my accounting background with my entrepreneurial ambitions. And unlike a lot of bookkeepers and accountants, I love sales. Sales is what gets me up in the morning. It's what I love doing. I love talking to small business owners about how we can add value to their business. And I think very early on, being able to focus on sales. I mean, I've always been involved in a certain level of detail, and I always will be. But early on, really focusing on sales, that what has allowed us to grow this quickly.
And that's powerful. And I think, that is so interesting. Like when you say sales, right? I'm sure right away, everyone that's listening right now, you, the listener right now in your car or at your desk, you're going, ooh, but I don't like sales, right? And then,
Absolutely.
right? And then you said, what you're really interested in is finding out how we can add value to your clients'
Right.
businesses. Now, that's the disconnect, I think, for a lot of people, like going out. So, hey, I'm putting on my sales hat. I'm going to go out and sell something. It's really, really what you're doing is you're like, I'm just going out to find the people that I can help. And for you, when you find those people, it's clearly demonstrating that you can help them. And it's that process that you love of actually converting them to a client.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. Sales is probably not the right term there, because sales, it's not superficial selling. I'm selling something because I actually believe that we're delivering value to a business owner, and being passionate about what you do and about what you're able to do for a business. I mean, that's what really excites me. And I think that should really excite every single bookkeeper and accountant out there.
That's exciting. And that's exactly the message we love to try and get across here, is that so everything you're saying, the things that you're doing, you are selling, but people are afraid of selling, and it's hard to not say that you're selling because that's what you're doing.
Right.
But really, you found something that you believe in, that you love, and you have no problem sharing it passionately with other people, and that sells itself. And so if the listener right now can connect with, hey, you, and this whole conversation has been about that, right? The need out there for businesses is great. There is a great need for business owners needing financial clarity to make better business decisions. That's not going away anytime soon. And if you, and you're all, the listener here is a person that is, proficient at that, loves doing that. If you can connect those two and just passionately demonstrate that to people in the world, they will just want to buy from you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, you actually wrote an article in LinkedIn. It was the first introduction that I had of you, and it was an interesting one. It said, "Why I Quit My Dream Job." What did you hope to get out of writing that article? And I'd love to hear sort of what some of the aftermath has been and feedback that you've gotten from that.
Absolutely. So, why I quit my dream job? I wrote that article to really give back and to share my story with others. My hope there was that if I could inspire others to take that leap, then really that article was worthwhile. The hardest thing about starting a business, especially as a risk-averse accountant or bookkeeper, the hardest thing is just jumping into it and committing to doing it. But once you're in there, there's no shortage of challenges, but really so many people just don't make that first initial leap. So I was hoping to inspire others to just take the plunge. And since writing the article, the feedback has been phenomenal. I've had people reach out to me on LinkedIn to just, to ask me to speak. I've spoken to a few people that I didn't know about their challenges with making a decision like that. And it's been really nice to be able to help people with that journey.
There is, we're definitely going to put the link up in the show notes so people will be able to read that. But I know for a fact that a lot of our listeners are people who are planning and preparing to be in business for themselves and have their own bookkeeping firm and to quit their job. I say day job. It's their daily, the work that they're doing that earns them and pays for the light bill and all that good stuff. And they dream of it. And the dream, sometimes in conversations that I've had with some people, it's a long dream. It's like 24 months, 36 months to do this. What would be your advice to the listener that are contemplating these thoughts? What's your take on it?
I would say if you feel like this is something you want to do, don't delay. My business partner and I had started talking in 2015 about starting this business. And I said to him, I've got to wait for these things to happen and we'll start in February or March. And then actually what I did is I escaped for a beach holiday in November 2015, got really inspired, read a couple of really great books, came back, and I quit my job that day, and we launched earlier than we expected. I would encourage people who are thinking about doing something like this to just ask yourself, why are you holding yourself back? What is it that's really in your way? And a lot of times you'll find it's just your own fear. And if you can just isolate that and recognize that it's just yourself getting in the way of you achieving this dream, then I'd say, just jump in, do it. It's like jumping into a pool of really cold water, but you'll be okay.
Absolutely. I was like, oh yeah, cold water. It's like, oh, that doesn't sound very good, but it's the truth, right? It's your body adjusts to it very quickly, and you start moving, you get warm, and away you go.
Exactly.
And this whole stream of thought around just taking action, I think it applies to also people who are already in business and they're growing their business. Like, okay, hey, we're going to go from, we're going to hire staff perhaps, or we're going to go find some new clients. We're going to go from 50 to 100K, whatever it is. It's like that next milestone. Often people put I find in this industry anyways, I mean, there's other industries where I'd say people think that they're going to do way more in way less time.
Yeah.
However, in this industry, and you said it, accountants and bookkeepers are risk averse perhaps. And also looking at the numbers and trying to, have clarity and make good, solid decisions. So I think the timelines get stretched. So you were in business. Now you had a partner, and it sounds like there was some good planning and you were committed to taking this action, but you started, and then 3 months later you hired your first staff member. What would you say to those that are thinking about hiring a staff member and saying, oh, I don't know if we're ready yet?
Yeah. It's a little bit scary hiring your first employee. For me, it was like, okay, wow, it's not only me now that, that I have to pay for. I'm responsible for this other person's livelihood, essentially. But until you have that first employee, your ability to really grow and take the business to the next level is quite limited. There's only so many hours in a day. So taking the plunge on that first employee is really important. And I'd say do it sooner rather than later. I mean, I know that, when you're a new business, you have, of course, limited resources, and there's, let's face it, limited revenue coming in the door. But the quicker you can figure out how to fund that first hire, the quicker you'll be able to scale up and grow faster.
I love it. For anyone who's scaled quickly or scaled at all for that matter, it's the same feedback that comes in, and it is do it sooner. You're never 100% ready. You never will be 100% ready. So just get it done. And I think what's cool about that is, and you mentioned that, it's like you now have somebody that you have to provide for. It creates this, it's like a forced saving program. A mortgage, for instance, when you buy a home is a forced savings program. Whereas if you said, okay, well, I'm going to do it another way and just save all that money, well, you better be a really good saver, because there's no structure set up to actually have that done. Whereas, it can be very powerful. Now, it's daunting, and for sure, don't want to say just go out there and do something. Just go and hire somebody. It's got to come from a sound decision making. What would you say you needed to put together and put in place in order for you to make that first hire? Was there a specific revenue stage that you wanted to get to, or like pipeline? What was the thinking or thought process for you?
It really was pipeline. It was a matter of, okay, I have X number of clients and I'm doing the bookkeeping myself. My pipeline looks really strong. And if even half of these clients close, I'm going to be in trouble. And so I remember that day actually, and I went, okay, so put together a job description, put it up on Craigslist, and found a really solid person, really solid bookkeeper fairly quickly.
Very cool. And literally today, this morning, I had a conversation with one of our peer bookkeeping licensees. looking to hire for staff, right? And
Yeah.
in fact, to the point where referral partners have said, look, I can't send you any more. I'm not going to send you any more referrals until you have a staff member, because they love working with the business, but they're like afraid that that this person's going to, implode. So
Absolutely.
all the signs are there, but yet still worried. And what if? And I almost feel like this podcast episode may very well be specifically for this person. And I'm trying to keep it anonymous here, so I'm not saying anything, but what would be your advice for this person?
I would say what is potentially holding back this person, and I don't know this for sure, is a loss of control and, being uncomfortable with not knowing every single detail. If it's finances, that's a different story. But a lot of times I think it is a matter of just not being willing and not being able to let go. But, make sure you spend the time interviewing candidates. I even put candidates through a test. We get them to do a 2-part test. One is a test on the accounting software that we use on Xero, and the other is a technical knowledge test. But once you've put somebody through that, you can get a pretty good idea of their skill set. Spend a little bit of time with them on personality, and you'll find the right person ultimately. But then what that person's going to allow you to do is think about things on the file that you otherwise wouldn't have when you were bogged down in the details. So you will very quickly find that, you're able to review things very quickly and get a good grasp on the file. And you will not lose control. And, your clients will ultimately be happy that you are, involving other team members. People get it.
Absolutely. I'm just delighted for this person getting direct feedback from you. I think it's bang on, and it's exciting for anyone in this position. It's an exciting time. It's a daunting time. There's lots that can go wrong, and there's still the fallout of growth, right? And you mentioned a few things where growing pains. So it's not all going to be. Don't want to say like, hey, staff's going to solve all your problems. We never want to say that, but it's, if you want to scale and grow and you want to continue to offer an excellent service, you need to have people in place. What were some of the growing pains that you've gone through?
Oh, there are many. There are a couple of, I'd say, significant growing pains that we experienced. One was on the process side, process consistency across files. That establishing that is very important. The problem is when you start the business, you don't really know what the process should be. So you basically take things the way that your clients do them, and you just kind of repeat them and do them that way. But you can't let that go on for too long. That would be my advice. Once you've got 5 clients, you need to start thinking about consistency and process between clients. And that's where your best practices should start evolving, is really, at that, I think, 5 client stage. So I'd say process was a challenge for us. It will always be a challenge for us, and it should be a challenge for us. We will always work to make our processes better and more efficient. That's been one challenge I'd say we've faced. Another challenge is with staffing. So, growing really fast means you have to hire a lot of people. And I think being the optimistic person that I am, I often, when I would initially interview people, I would only tell them about how great it was going to be. And what I learned is if I wasn't giving people an accurate picture of what the job truly was, then it just ultimately wasn't fair to them. Because in a business like ours that's growing really fast, you don't get a lot of the stability that you get in a typical firm, just because there's new clients being added constantly. things are shifting, processes are being improved. So you have to be willing to work in a really quickly changing organization, and you don't get some of those resources that you have in more stable, established firms. So I now today spend a lot of time with potential hires, multiple meetings, telling them truly about what their day is going to look like. And I found that since doing that, staff have a clearer understanding coming in of what to expect. Oh yeah, and did I mention that we're hiring?
Of course, I love it. It's beautiful. There is a little story that I like to talk about when we're talking about hiring. The number one, I guess it would be the position or trade that has the highest job satisfaction. The job with the highest job satisfaction is actually demolition workers. And demolition workers, the reason being is that demolition workers come to work, they knock things down, and when they're knocked down, they go home. And so they know, essentially, they know exactly what it is that they need to do. They know exactly how to do it, and they know exactly when it's been done to perfection. And those three criteria, as systems and process and everything you've been working on and developing, and you're talking about onboarding, and training and more communication, is you're just continuing to provide those information that satisfies those three things. What is it that you want them to do? Exactly how you want them to do it, and enable them to be able to know when they've done a good job of it. And if you can do that, you have people punching out and going home and, saying, I love my job.
Right. That's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, it's really simple. When I heard that, I'm like, that light bulb went off, right? It made me want to become a demolition worker.
Yeah.
I can see why. Let's get a big wrecking ball and knock stuff down. So, but I think it's powerful. And I think that many forget about that component of things and think that because they've hired somebody that those people will come and just know how to do the job. And that creates problems because people don't know anything. They know is what they know. And when we know things, we have the curse of knowledge. We know what we know and we don't know what we don't know. And it's hard to decipher between what you do and don't. So you've obviously been able to do that. Now, I know we're running out of time. We probably have a conversation that goes into the hours, but I'd really like to know, from your pipeline generating, I'm sure this has got to be a question of our listener, right? They're thinking, how have you been able to generate enough pipeline to feed this business?
It really comes down to relationships. So you hear a lot of people today talking about search engine optimization and content and this, that, and the other. Those are really great long-term strategies. But my advice to anybody starting out is focus on the relationships that you have. Those are the most powerful sources of referrals, really. That is what has done it for us. When I decided to launch the business, I went back to KPMG and had tons of meetings with people, with partners that I worked with. And those relationships really helped. I mean, we've received tons of business through KPMG, through other firms, other professionals that we have gotten to know over the last couple of years. And really, that's boots on the ground, having coffee meetings approach. In the first few months of starting the business, I had a few hundred coffee meetings. It was a lot of coffee, but a lot of great conversations came out of it. And a lot of it didn't lead to clients immediately, but, people remember, they remember those conversations. They remember that you reached out. So don't underestimate the power of good old fashioned relationships would be my advice there.
I love it. And, you said, SEO and content and all these good things, long play stuff. Relationships will definitely not be as long a play, and the ROI on a cup of coffee in an hour of your time or even 30 minutes of your time, a much better ROI. A lot of people spend and burn up a lot of money chasing after, paid for click advertising, all these different things that done really well and right, can work. But again, those are, I would say, strategies that a business like yours would be entertaining because you have the budget, you have things figured out. Anything below, I would say, $150,000 to $200,000 in revenue should be focused on exactly what you're talking about, which is
absolutely
relationships, calling up people, going for coffee meetings, nurturing current and developing new.
Absolutely. I'll let you in on a little secret. So we just...
I love secrets.
We just redid our website. I think we launched it in late August, early September this year. And I'll be perfectly honest with you. The first website we had was just there for the purpose of having a website. Like it did nothing. I wasn't particularly fond of it. So you can imagine, like, really over a year and a half until I got the website that I wanted. And really, because that wasn't the focus. The focus was building relationships.
Beautiful. You know, it's great to hear that, and I think it's probably relieving for so many in that the website, it's a permission to just have a basic website that you don't have to spend a ton of money on, and its purpose, in my belief, is that the purpose of a website for a small business is to play a role in your sales funnel, which is the evaluation stage. When someone says, "Hey, you should go work with Omar," well, I'll send you his website. And the person does that, and they go, "Oh, the guy's got he's got a website. The gal's got a website. Whatever the case may be." It's like, that's the check that box and move on. Yeah. They're not going to sit there and read, 50 pages of content there, nope. And if they come across you in a Google search, I mean, it's a different situation altogether. You need a totally different website for handling that type of an inquiry, right? Yeah. Different things going on in a person's mind, where if so-and-so says, their best friend says, "You need to go work with Omar," is a very different mindset than finding somebody online. So really freeing, I think, for small business out there. What's coming across to me is that if we were going to give a homework, which nobody likes homework, right? But this kind of homework is going to make you money. So the homework is call somebody up today or tomorrow and book a coffee meeting. Now, Omar, you've done, in the beginning, you did hundreds of coffee meetings. Do you still do those coffee meetings? You still doing coffee meetings?
I still do. And it's almost like it's become, in a weird way, it's a habit. It's just something that I love doing. So today I've got 2 of them booked. I mean, pretty well, I'd say in a week, I still do 8 to 10 of them.
Beautiful. And so help our listener out. What's the steps to booking and having a powerful coffee meeting?
It's surprising. I have asked so many people out for coffee, and very rarely will a person say no. It's bizarre. I've approached some pretty high-profile people. Here's an example. I don't know if you'd call them high-profile, but there's this really cool sandwich shop near us. They have multiple locations, busy. And I just approached the guy on LinkedIn, said, "Hey, love your shop. I'm there every other day. Would love to just tell you about what I'm doing. I've started this business." We had 2 meetings, didn't lead to anything, but I followed up every 6 months. And he just started another business and became a client on Friday. So, wow. It's just a matter of reaching out. That's all it takes.
Beautiful. And I'm guessing that when you have that initial coffee meeting now there's going to be a couple of different coffee meetings. You're going to meet with past people, current existing relationships. This is a cold relationship that you turned warm, and actually, long process. So let's start with an easy one. Let's do the ones that you know the person. You book a coffee meeting. What are you talking about in this coffee meeting?
Surprisingly, not much in the way of trying to sell. It's really listening to people. I always approach it as really a social meeting first. It's a matter of just reconnecting. Hey, I've started this business, would love to reconnect. And you spend the first good chunk of the meeting just talking about the person and how they're doing. And from there, really the topic of what you're doing, the conversation about your new business will come up. And don't hesitate to just say, if you or anybody needs help with this, I'd love to speak to them. And try doing that a few times, and it'll feel like second nature.
I just love it. This is great, easy homework for everybody. Who doesn't like coffee? And if you don't like coffee, have a hot chocolate or a steamed milk. That's fine. Right. But go out with people, get out into the world, invite some easy people that you already know that will say yes, go have a meeting with them, find out all about them, what's going on in their life, what are they challenged with, where are they trying to get to, and eventually the conversation will lead to what you're up to, and away it goes. And I just love this, Omar. It's so simple. It's part of the simple things that simply work. And you've been so generous in sharing some of your success secrets, and I'm sure it's going to provide value and some success for our listener. Great. Now, thank you. Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience? Or you mentioned you're hiring. We'll have a link to your website in the show notes. But if there's anything else, I'd love to give you the opportunity to do that.
Really, I think what it comes down to is just if you want to start a business or you want to grow your existing business, just trust yourself. Figure out what it is that you're passionate about, what gets you up in the morning. For me, it's dealing with small business owners and helping to make small business owners grow their business and improve their business. Focus on those things and it'll all just come together, really. That may be somewhat of a romantic way of looking at it, but I really do believe that. So, if you want to do it, just know why you're doing it and go after it.
I love the inspirational message. Just go out there and do it. You've done it, Omar, and you've been an incredible role model, I'm sure, for so many of our listeners today. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Michael. Really appreciate it.
It's our pleasure completely. That wraps another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. To learn more about today's guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.